Welcome back, City Builders. Kodiak the Kodiak here. Today starts a new weekly series on the channel that will come out each Sunday discussing all the new City Skylines 2 news and updates. We'll be keeping this series going all the way until the launch of City Skylines 2. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can keep up to date with all the City Skylines 2 news. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, it's been a hot minute since I made a new video, and I'm honestly a little nervous. It's been a while since we made one, and it's a new kind of series, it's a new format, so I just want to thank you guys for sticking through all the turmoil and coming back through, even though I haven't made a video in a couple weeks. Anyways, we got a lot of big cities news this week, and some of it was not very good, especially for console players, and we'll get into that, but we got 4 big stories to cover. Up first is some good news from Overcharged Egg. They announced on their YouTube video, at least that's the first YouTube video that I saw it on, maybe some other creators announced it as well, but the embargo for them will be lifted on October 19th. So as of October 19th, they will be able to talk about the game freely, I think, at that point. I don't know what level of embargo will be lifted, but they, according to Overcharged Egg, their embargo will be fully lifted on the 19th of October. So I don't know if they're not allowed to talk about certain things like the mod workshop and stuff like that, but they will be able to start talking freely about their gameplay experiences starting on October 19th. So we do have that to look forward to, as well as I think maybe that week or the week before we'll get their 3rd Let's Play series started. So we'll get a ton of new content right before then as well. The second topic I'd like to discuss is City Skylines 2 music officially has some radio station playlists on Spotify. So you guys can head over to Spotify. I'll put the links down in the description below, and you'll be able to listen to 2 of the radio stations in the game. And those will be Smooth Beat and the Second Moon channel. Second Moon is definitely a little bit more melodic, maybe like sleepy tunes, and Smooth Beat is definitely a little bit more upbeat, maybe better for a background of a YouTube video. So that was a nice little treat that they gave us and something to kind of get us hyped and excited for the launch on October 24th. Another thing I learned from Overcharged Egg, which is part 3 of this week, is that there's not going to be Quay Walls in the game. I don't know if this was announced earlier or I just missed it, but obviously we have the cut and fill tool for roads, so you can obviously do a road Quay Wall, or you can use a pedestrian path to create a Quay Wall using those roads, but there will be no official, like, simple Quay Wall as we've seen before. So that's something that's really interesting that I found out while watching Overcharged Egg's video on my Twitch stream, which you can find a link to down in the description below, where I've been kind of reacting to all of the City Skylines 2 videos that have been released by all these content creators. You know, a lot of these creators I didn't even know existed, honestly, until I started going through all these. So if you guys are as excited I am to watch some City Skylines 2 content, you guys can pop over to my Twitch stream and watch them over there. I'm not going to re-upload them, mostly because I feel unethical in doing that, like just ripping up their videos and then re-uploading them for myself. So if you guys want to pop over to my Twitch stream, watch them with me, feel free to, but I don't want to steal too many views from these content creators that have worked very hard to get to where they are to be accepted into Colossal Order's early access program. So just watch their YouTube videos, please, and support them, and drop a like and leave a nice comment. Maybe you should do that on this video too. That would be very, very nice. Okay, and the 4th topic is the big bad one. It's the big bad one that I think a lot of you guys probably clicked on this video for in the thumbnail. Some really important news. So without further ado, let's dive into it because yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it's not good news. There's nothing good news that comes out of this. So anyways, let's dive in. So here is the Discord of the official City Skylines Discord. By the way, if you guys want to join my Discord, links also in the description down below. Here's their official Discord, though, and in their announcement channels on September 28th at 8:30 a.m. my time, or 8:03 a.m. my time, they announced in the Discord that they are sharing an update with us on the launch of City Skylines 2. We're hard at work preparing for the game for our release on October 24th. While doing so, we realize that we need more time to reach quality targets we have set for console. As we want to provide the best experience for players, we are updating the release window for Xbox and PS5 to spring of 2024. So there's no real good way to cut this for console players. If you've been excited for City Skylines 2 and you've been excited for the launch, there's really just no good way to say this. But I mean, you're just not going to get the game until next year, which sucks if you're looking forward to it. You know. I mean, I guess you got a month's notice, but it's still not great. It's still not great. And that's just the facts of it. We'll get into some speculations and why I think this is happening later in the video. But I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say other than it's just bad news. They further stated the additional time allows us to focus on matching the quality and performance across all platforms. We'll share more updates on the console release window soon. As work on optimization continues, we're also updating the minimum and recommended specs for PC. If you have any remaining questions, please find our FAQ here. In the meantime, we're excited to welcome PC players to build their dream cities on October 24th. Happy building, Colossal Order, Paradox Interactive. So let's dive into this FAQ. Now, most of this is covering the console questions, and if you have any questions related to this, I will have a link to this in the description as well, so you guys can take a look at it. If you're a console player, this should answer all of your questions, and if you have any further questions, I believe you can access their City Skylines Discord and ask any questions in there. They have official channels for things like that, so please feel free to. As far as I understand, if you pre-ordered the game, you get a mandatory refund, and you'll have to pre-order the game, I think, at a future date. I could be wrong, but that is kind of what it seems like. This will not affect any PC version of the game. This will not affect if you pre-ordered it on the Microsoft Store or on any other platform. I think it's just for sale on the Microsoft platform or Steam. If it's on sale on a different platform, let me know down in the comments so I'm more educated on it. But I don't know if it's coming out on GOG or Epic or anything like that. But this will not affect your launch whatsoever. If you have it on Game Pass or you plan on playing it on Game Pass, it's not going to affect that whatsoever. So PC, you're totally good to play the game still on October 24th, other than if we scroll down regarding the new recommended PC specs, these have been updated. So on screen right now, you should see a side-by-side comparison of the original specs, which should be on the left, and the new specs, which will be on the right. The minimum requirements have been updated. I'm going to focus mostly on graphics cards here because I think that's going to be most important, and we'll see that in a minute when we talk about the leaked FPS graph. I say leaked, but I don't actually know that it was leaked. We'll talk about it in a minute. So we are going from a GeForce 780 on minimum specs to a GeForce 970. Now, they don't give AMD versions of their minimum and recommended requirements, and I absolutely hate that they do this. I hate it when game developers do this. It's been a trend I've been noticing in game development that they just don't tell you what the AMD equivalent version of it is. And sure, you could just Google it, but it just seems like, hey, you should buy an NVIDIA card. And I don't think people should be buying NVIDIA cards right now. I think that you should be buying an AMD card if you're not creating content because they're significantly cheaper. And sure, there's a lot of glitz and glam on NVIDIA cards, but I don't think that it's worth it. So that's a little unfortunate, but we'll be talking about this in terms of just NVIDIA cards because I don't feel like looking up the AMD equivalent, much like I assume other consumers won't be. But it's also just a little bit easier to kind of track the which NVIDIA cards are what. So we are going from a 780 to a 970, which is not that significant of a leap. The 970 or the 780 is also a 10-year-old graphics card, which I'm sorry if you are no longer the minimum requirements anymore, but it's an old card. I can't blame a developer for not wanting to have their game run all the way down to that quality of GPU because it's old. And I'm not trying to wealth shame anybody who, like, you know, you can't afford a new GPU. Like, it sucks. I'm sorry. But it's an old card. I can't blame a developer for not wanting to support it in their game either. Now, the big thing is the new recommended specs. And not that if you don't meet the recommended specs anymore, you're not going to be able to play the game, unlike minimum specs. But again, these are arbitrary. If we look at Starfield, for example, their recommended specs don't even hit 60 FPS in some of the places in the game consistently. So I wouldn't say that recommended means anything. Hard stop. That being said, that's just what the game developer expects a normal gameplay experience to be. And if we look at the recommended specs, we'll go from an Intel i7 9700K, formerly, that was the former minimum requirement, or a Ryzen 5 5600X, to now, the new recommended requirements are the i5 12600K or the Ryzen 7 5800X, which, I mean, it's a pretty significant jump. If you're on AMD, you might be, I think that they're both on AM4. I could be wrong. I don't know which socket type they are, but you know, that's not that significant of a jump from an AMD standpoint. So I think you should be relatively fine. The big jaw dropper for me was the graphics cards, and it was originally a 2080 Ti, which was significantly high, but you know, I look at the lighting in the game and I go, you know, I guess it kind of makes sense for the recommended specs, especially with them working towards this being a next generation game, and the lighting and the graphics and everything looks pretty good. And I wasn't sure which the CPU or the GPU, how much load the GPU was going to carry in this game, because the last game, you know, we weren't even fully utilizing the CPU to properly play the game. So now we have multi-threading and all that sorts of stuff. So I was hopeful that was like, you know, not going to be like that hard of a draw. But the new recommended spec is now a 3080. A 3080, one of the top 5 best GPUs still on the market today, is your recommended requirement. That's just crazy. I think at surface value, when you don't look at the context or any of the details, which we'll get into in a little bit, like just factually, like for a game like this to have a recommended requirement of a 3080 is jaw-dropping. And if you don't know what it takes to render the stuff that's being rendered in the game, I would assume that you are also jaw-dropped by this. Now, that being said, there's a lot going on in City Skylines 2, and let's get into that FPS graph that was leaked. I'll put it in air quotes because I don't know, because that's going to help tell us some stuff on why this is going on and how important that actually is. All right, this is about the halfway point in the video. I actually don't know if it's the halfway point in the video. I just know I'm going to slip it in between the console not getting the game and talking about the FPS graph somewhere. So it's going somewhere in there. But I just want to give a huge shout out to my Discord subscribers and patrons, whatever we're going to call them. I'm not too sure. But I want to give a huge shout out to J15Y9RKP and Wheatbread for supporting me in Discord, which is the best place to financially support me. If you guys want to support me and my content journey, you get a ton of really cool benefits, especially on my Twitch stream if you guys are over there at all. So please consider subscribing, as well as the other patrons who are listed down below. All right, thanks for doing this. Drop a like on the video, please. Thanks. So right here is a screenshot of it. I did not want to show off the creator's video because I don't actually know if they were supposed to show this, and I don't really want to get anybody in trouble, but I think that showing this off will help us kind of see maybe a little bit more about what's going on and why that requirement has been increased. So if we look right here, we have some render times. So what this is doing is it's telling us how many milliseconds or nanoseconds or whatever it is, it takes to render out something, whether that be a frame or what. If you've ever played a fast-paced FPS, you will usually see something like this as well. I don't believe this is a third-party overlay. Also, I think this is a first-party overlay. Could be wrong, but I think it's a first-party overlay, so I think this is built into City Skylines 2, which is why, again, I don't think they were intentionally intending to show it, because as far as I understand it, they're not allowed to talk about the actual like FPS or performance of the game. So right here, we have the CPU main, and that is at 13, and GPU is at 25. And so what that means is it's taking much longer for the GPU to do whatever it needs to do to render out than the CPU, which means we are GPU bound. And if I think I know which GPU this creator has, I think they have a 3080. Could be wrong, but from what I found through my digging, I did not ask them because I don't think that they were supposed to show this again. But from what I found from my digging, I think they have a 3080. And if we go over here, we'll notice that the FPS is 41 FPS. And this was towards the tail end of the build. Now, I know it could be pretty easy for you guys to figure out which creator this is. If any of you comment who it is, I will be deleting your post. I do not want to be responsible for getting this person in trouble if they accidentally leaked this and they weren't supposed to, okay? I'm really reiterating that. But I think it's really important to show you guys this because it's important to then go back and talk about something else, so we can maybe talk about some justifications on why this is happening, why the console release was even delayed as well. This all plays together, so bear with me, please. So right here, we have 41 FPS towards the tail end when they were hitting milestone 8, which is not very high. And if you look at this at surface value, this doesn't look good because the CPU they have is clearly powerful enough to run the game. They're GPU bound. If they are on the 3080 like I think they are, and they're only getting 40 FPS, that's not great. Now, maybe they have some settings set to way too high. That there is a potential for that. I don't know what their graphics settings look like, but just from a surface value, looking at this at 41 FPS, they're GPU bound, running the base game of City Skylines 2, a game that we know so well is mostly RAM and CPU intensive because they didn't utilize multi-threading. This could be jaw-dropping for people, especially people who maybe didn't upgrade their GPU going into City Skylines 2. Now, you should have, because the minimum requirement was, or the recommended requirement was a 2080 Ti. But that being said, 41 FPS, not that great. Doesn't look good. Not great. Now, It's not like it's a fast-paced FPS shooter, but I think a lot of people maybe went into this thinking that they were going to be able to get clean 60 FPS all the way up through their city build, and then maybe as it got really big, they would start chugging down. So if you thought that, definitely wrong. So now that we have this information, we know that this person, well, we don't know, we assume that this person is using a 3080. They are GPU bound. They are in fact GPU bound, and they're only getting 41 FPS. They're also recording, so that's hitting the GPU too, so just keep that in mind. But they're only getting 41 FPS. If we go back over here to the minimum system requirements and we look at the 3080, this is, as far as I understand it, roughly the recommended experience that they're expecting you to have. So that means that initially this was the recommended experience they expected 2080 Ti players to have. Now, if we also look at, let's say, the PS5, from what I found online, an equatable GPU to the PS5 would be around the 3060. And the 3060 is a worse card than the 2080 Ti, which means that the console version of the game was not already going to meet the recommended requirements of the PC gaming experience. Now, if we back up even further to the City Skylines update in the Discord, and they talk about additional time allows us to focus on matching quality and performance across all platforms, they did in fact want to match that recommended setting to the PS5 and the Xbox. So what does that mean to me? That means to me that there was intended to be some level of optimization happening towards the tail end of development. Now, for those of you who don't know, I started in game design before transferring into video production. I know some people who work in game design. I did a lot of research before I decided I wanted to go into game design in college, and I know a little bit about game development cycles. And I know that the last stage of game development is optimization. If you've ever played a Call of Duty beta, you would know that the beta version of the game usually gives you way less frames than the full release of the game. And that's usually true with most games. Performance usually increases at full launch because the tail end of development usually involves a pretty significant level of optimization. And as we know, City Skylines is already kind of struggling to meet the deadline of October 24th and get everything that they wanted in the game at launch. And this is a very common trend happening in the gaming industry right now, where game developers are unable to meet the development deadline that they've set for themselves. A lot of times, not to throw Paradox under the bus, because I don't know, that's set by the publisher. The publisher is expecting a return on the investment that they made into the developer. And they usually go through a little bit of a negotiation phase, and they want the game set by a certain date. And then maybe Colossal Order wants set by a certain date, or maybe even Colossal Order messed up, and they thought that it could be released by this date, but it's very clear that it won't be. And so I would expect that there's not going to be the same level of optimization at launch as there is, or as they intended. Now, that doesn't mean that the game's gonna be super buggy or anything like that. It's clearly playable, especially if we watch all the content creator videos. There really isn't that many bugs in the game, and none of them seem to be game breaking either. I'm sure they're hard at work trying to add all the features into the game that they weren't unable to, and I'm sure that they plan on doing another level of optimization before launch, and that's probably where the 2080 Ti recommended requirement came in. They plan on having that next level of optimization, allowing for people who maybe had the 3080 to experience the game even better than before. Now, you can say this is copium or it's a tinfoil hat theory if you want to. It's totally fine. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. You think this is a huge, massive L? I mean, it is, especially if you're a console player. This is a huge L. You've been completely delayed until next year, and that sucks. But the requirements were not increased that significantly, and I can't imagine this affecting your gameplay experience that much, but I do expect there to be potentially a performance or optimization update coming next year that will coincide with the launch of console, because if they already can't get the performance good, that means that performance gain is probably going to come to PC too, because these games are going to run very similarly to one another. They made a very clear point that they want these games to be more similar to one another on console and PC. So that all screams to me that we're going to be getting some kind of optimization or performance update sometime next year, along with the launch of console. So it's not all doom and gloom, and this is kind of speculation too. I don't actually know what's going on, but I'm just looking at the context clues and trying to find a solution to the problem, and that's the one that seems the most likely to me. And that doesn't mean that launch is going to be great, especially for you console players, and again, I'm sorry. But to everybody else, it's not going to be the end of the world, I don't think. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys disagree with me, feel free to let me know down in the comments. I'm sure we're all still going to enjoy City Skylines 2 at launch, and hopefully they get all the snow stuff fixed and settled down by launch. patch, as well as some of the other stuff that they promised. I'm really happy that they added contour lines to the game. If you guys didn't see that, contour lines are back, so that's good. Anywho, I'll catch you guys next Sunday for the next video. Otherwise, you can follow me on twitch.tv down in the description down below, and you guys can watch some of these videos, creator videos that have been released with me and my chat and my cool community. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.